little surprised are the attackers that as they approach the island, the coded signal indicating a totally successful surprise raid is flashed back to the carrier task force before the first bomb falls. Tora, 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 Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. A single remote radar station had spotted the incoming raiders, but mistook them for a flight of B-17s due in from the mainland. The B-17s arrive and, like America itself, find themselves in the middle of a war that had not yet been declared. Yes, this is Tora, 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 the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The attack from the Japanese aircraft carriers Akaga, Akagi, Hiryu, Soryu, and two new carriers, the Shogaku and Suikoku, lasts an hour and 45 minutes. As you see these planes in front of you, you can imagine what it must have been like with 183 of them catching us completely surprise at 7:55 a.m. December 7th of 1941. When the first bombs began to fall, Army Air Corps pilots Kenneth Taylor and George Welch were just returning from an island town. These brave pilots raced to their P-40 Warhawks, which were fueled and armed with .30 caliber ammunition for aerial combat practice, and quickly found themselves in the middle of the real thing. The two second lieutenants caught up with the Japanese at Iwa, a Marine base and auxiliary field close to Pearl Harbor. After shooting down two Japanese Val dive bombers, Taylor and Welch ran out of ammunition, landed at Wheeler Field near the center of the island. There, Taylor and Welch reloaded with .30 and .50 caliber ammo and took off to fight again. These two brave pilots are credited with downing a total of 6 Japanese warplanes before their own planes were disabled. Both of these pilots received a Distinguished Service Cross for their actions that infamous day. As you see the bombs going off and listen to the air raid sirens, watch the airplanes flying in front of you, you can just imagine what it must have been like that fateful morning of December 7th, 1941. At Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field, the devastation was awesome. On the eastern edge of Ford Island, in the center of the island, 7 battleships lay at berth. The California, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Tennessee, Arizona, and the Nevada. The Japanese hit first with Kate torpedo bombers, like you see in front of you right now. These Kates were equipped with special shallow running torpedoes designed specifically for the attack on Pearl Harbor. You see, the shallow waters at Pearl Harbor would not allow the use of normal deep running torpedoes, and that took away any claim that the Japanese could make that this was a target of opportunity. It was a well-planned and executed surprise attack. Then came the Val dive bombers, armed with 1,700-pound armor-busting projectiles made for 16-inch battleship guns, but converted to aerial bombs. These planes dived down on the Nevada and Arizona. Anti-aircraft fire veered the Vals away from the Nevada on the first wave, but the Arizona wasn't that lucky. As Vals dived on it, a bomb from a Kate bomber stabbed the Arizona through her forward magazines and exploded, touching off more than 1,000,000 pounds of gunpowder. A sailor on the Nevada watched the Arizona jump up at least 15 to 20 feet in the water and break into two, forever entrapping 1,200 American servicemen in an underwater tomb that you can still see today. The ship sank in less than 3 minutes. Meanwhile, at Bellows Field on the northeast coast of the island, more U.S. Army Air Corps pilots were racing to their P-40s. Just then, Japanese Zeros appeared and started strafing runs. One P-40 pilot was killed just as he stepped into his cockpit. 2 other P-40s were down just as they got off the ground. Yes, ladies and gentlemen and kids, this is Tora, Tora, Tora. We've taken you back to that fateful day of December 7th, 1941. You are there, and you can imagine what it must have been like with 183 of the airplanes that you see in front of you right now bombing Pearl Harbor, Hickam Field, and all over the island of Oahu. That flight of 16 B-17s coming from the mainland arrived and are immediately attacked by the Japanese Zeros. In the confusion, The B-17s were shot at by friend and foe, and the frightened crews landed wherever they could. One in a pineapple field not far from Hickam Field. One B-17 pilot, Major Landon, trying to land at Hickam Field, said, "What a hell of a way to enter a war. Out of gas, unarmed, and no place to land." 8 of the 16 B-17s actually made it to Hickam Field. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it was like. You can just imagine, with 183 fighters and bombers from Japan's First Air Fleet, the bombs going off, the strafing runs, the sound of the air raid sirens. This was just what it was like. Tora, the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor from all of those aircraft carriers. The Japanese wanted us to believe that it was a target of opportunity, but the fact that they had those shallow running torpedoes completely took that argument away from them. Tora, this awakened a sleeping giant. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, 7:55 a.m., December 7th of 1941, and you are there. Watch as the K torpedo bombers come through, dropping those special torpedoes. High overhead, the Zeros doing their strafing runs and dropping smaller bombs. In the foreground, one of the Zeros down low doing strafing runs. You can get an idea of what it must have been like that peaceful Sunday morning. You can just imagine what your reaction might have been if you were a soldier or a sailor or an airman planning for just a very peaceful, normal Sunday that day, that peaceful day of December 7th, and you were awakened with the sound of gunfire and bombs and torpedoes going off. This is Tora. We've taken you back in time over 70 years to the United States entry into what we now know is World War II. Tora was the call. In front of you, listen to the sounds of the bombs going off. You can just imagine what it must have been like if you were on the ground and not expecting this. The troops scrambled to find whatever kind of firearm they could use to shoot at the airplanes. Some shot with their pistols. In fact, one of the Japanese pilots said later that as he was diving down on a strafing run, he saw a lone Marine with a .45 caliber automatic pistol in his hand shooting at the marauding Japanese, calling him the bravest American he had ever seen. At the conclusion of the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, more than half of America's entire naval fleet had been destroyed or damaged. Nearly 2,400 Americans killed, 1,200 wounded, and at the time 960 were missing. 151 aircraft were destroyed as they sat on the ground. Virtually every U.S. military aircraft in Hawaii. 2 battleships, 3 destroyers, and 2 light cruisers were destroyed. 6 battleships were damaged. Our greatest naval base lay in ruins, along with our complacency. The following day, December 7, 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt announced our entry into World War II with these words to Congress, the citizens of the United States, and the world.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. It will be recorded that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even weeks ago. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
In the 44 months of fighting that followed, the United States sank every one of the Japanese aircraft carriers, battleships, and cruisers of the Pearl Harbor Strike Force. Nagasaki, the city where the special armor-busting bombs were made, was destroyed by a U.S. atomic bomb on August 9th of 1945. Would you please join me in a moment of silence in memory of all those who lost their lives that infamous day?